I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. This is our next to last board meeting for the 10-11 school year. I would say penultimate, but that's too big a word for me to say, so I'm going to say next to last regular voting meeting, and we'll go ahead and ask for any.
I'd like to add a supplemental personnel report to the consent agenda. Personnel is D, so I guess we can make the supplemental D.
Very good. Thanks, Brad. Sean, did you have?
No, I'm going to withhold those for time.
Very good. Anything else at this time? Very good. On to hearing from public staff, and we do have a few folks signed up, and it looks like Judy, you can read the name, because I can't.
Jean-Luc or Jean-Luc?
Jean-Luc.
There you go.
Well, thanks for letting me speak. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm here to talk about the granting of tenure or denial thereof to Sarah Simpkins, who's a social worker at the Bell Sherman School. So I'm just going to read some remarks, and I can give these to the clerk if afterwards. Anyway, so on June 3rd, our social worker at Bell Sherman, Sarah Simpkins, told us through the Bell Sherman program.
Can I ask you to just hold for 1 second? We need to talk about whether we can do a personnel thing here in public. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, I thought we had a policy against discussing individuals, personnel items as part of the public.
And we can look at our esteemed delegate from our New York State School Board Association. Doug, what do you say?
I say circulate or make copies and circulate to each board member, but I wouldn't, and I mean, I'm currently president of T-Bird, and I certainly wouldn't go for it with this.
So Jean-Luc, it's, certainly we've received correspondence regarding this issue, but certainly you can share what you have with the board, but if we could step away from specific personnel items in the district, that would be good.
So who should I give this to?
I'll make copies.
Right, and the board clerk will distribute.
Thanks, Judy.
Thanks.
Wendy Jones.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I'm an LACS parent, and I have two daughters, one who graduated last year, and the other who is, thank God, finishing 10th grade. It actually looks like it will happen. And I just want to thank everyone for their support in keeping LACS an ungraded school. And I just have a brief anecdote about that. When my older daughter was in, I believe it was 11th grade, she had some snafus with scheduling. LACS is a small school, and you can't always fit all the classes that you want to take and the teachers that you want. And she was going nuts, and it was late at night, and I said, okay, maybe it's time to think about IHS. And with no offense to anyone in this room, the tears welled up in her eyes, and she said, absolutely not. She said, you have no idea what this school has done for me and how it has changed my way of thinking about the world. And she stuck it out, and she graduated, and I have to say that I think that one of the reasons that she was able to assess her experience is that the courses that she took focused on content and critical thinking and really thinking for yourself and not just finding the right answer. Okay, fast forward to the same child. Last year, we all know it's a very difficult year for getting into colleges, and she got into Oberlin College, which I would say is kind of the Harvard of liberal arts colleges, if you want to go into metaphors of people who do that kind of ranking. And she also got into a small school called Earlham, which I personally hadn't heard a lot about. And she chose to go to Earlham. I have to say, I am from a lower class, middle family. I grew up in the Bronx. My mother taught high school in the South Bronx for 35 years and loved it, was never burnt out. I am the first person in my whole family who ever set foot in an Ivy League school. I got a PhD in English from Cornell. And it did not, I mean, what can I say? When she said Earlham, not Oberlin, something inside of me was very conflicted, because I have to say, just being in this position and coming from where I'm coming from, I am still seduced a little bit by the glitz, but I stepped back and I said, she's got the right values, she's going to do okay. She wanted Earlham because they had an international program and a diverse population, and she felt that the administration stood by the values of this Quaker school. Oberlin, she felt, was a little bit hypocritical, like knocked me down with a feather, you know, an administration of a college, major college, being hypocritical. Like, I've never heard of this. But she had the right values, and I think that she did the right thing for her, and I think that she got those values from LACS, and it's harder and harder and harder to get this way of thinking in our culture, in our no school left behind culture that just churns out numbers and statistics and leaves quite a few children behind. My second child is a very different kind of person.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
Well,
I can stop with one. I only have two. I'm good.
You know number two just saw you say that on TV, right?
I'm fine. That's good.
You're speaking to the grading issue
I
throughout
am
the state.
speaking to the grading issue and to the fact that, let me just sum it up, I feel that a lack of focus on grades builds better students, better people, and contributes to true learning. And I feel that we shouldn't have to go to a charter school to have this option. And thank you so much for your support. It has meant so much to my family. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Friends. Hi, I'm going to make it very short, and that is that the PTA Council had its last meeting of the year and its end of the year luncheon. I want to thank all the PTA officers, the administrators, the Board of Ed members that came, and I just want to announce that there were 3 members of the PTA Council that were elected. We have still 2 more that we are searching for in terms of people who would step up to the plate. But right now, Chuck Lyons will be serving his 2nd year as PTA president, council president. Rachel Richards and I have switched our positions, so I will be serving as the first vice president of the PTA Council, and she will be serving as the 2nd vice president. And when we find out who the treasurer and secretaries are, we'll let you know.
Thanks, Greg. And if there is no one else, on to student reps, which happen to be from LACS and not the high school. Wendy.
Okay. So today it was a really cool day for ACS. It was our infusion day, which we haven't had one in a couple of years. But this infusion days are to talk about important issues that ACS feels like we should talk about. We've had ones about sexuality and what else?
We've had ones about race and gender issues.
Race and gender issues, just really, really interesting topics. But actually this year's was about the issues that ACS has been presented with this year, and also just how we can be a better school. So today we started off the day with all of the not all of them, but most ACS students coming to Cobb Auditorium to watch the movie Race to Nowhere, which is a really, really profound movie, I thought. And then after we watched the movie, we had a really interesting discussion. A lot of parents talked, a lot of students talked, teachers came up and talked, and it was just really cool how our community came together. And then we got back to school and had lunch, and then we had a fishbowl conversation again. A fishbowl, do we know what fishbowl is? Okay. A fishbowl is when there's a bunch of students, or a bunch of people on the outside, and then there's chairs on the inside, so it's a little circle, and different groups are represented, and there were teachers in there, there were teachers, they said teachers twice, teachers and parents and students and different people, and they talked about certain questions. I don't really remember those questions, but they're really interesting. And we had a lot of really, really good discussion, and it was really cool. And also, like, little middle schoolers got up and talked, which I thought was really special. And then we broke up into groups, but it was with this thing called Open Space Technology, which is new to me, but Joe brought it up, and it's where people decide as individuals what they'd like to talk about. So they stand up. I had one that was, how can the upperclassmen help the little middle schoolers, so the 6th and 7th graders, kind of assimilate to the ACS culture? Like, what can we do to help them? And you present that, and then you write it on a big piece of paper, and then you bring it to a classroom. And then people can come into the classroom and talk about it, but it's really supposed to be like this free-flowing thing that you can kind of switch in between, and it was really good, and we generated some really good conversation from that as well. And then in ACS tradition, we did United We Sit, where we sit on each other's laps in a big circle. So it's very ACS friendly.
And I'd just like to echo what Wendy said about thanking everyone who supported us throughout this great, shall I call it, debacle. If people don't know what the issue is, recently LACS has been pressured from the state, which has been pressured from the federal government through a grant called Race to the Top. I was going to say Race to Nowhere, which is the film we watched. Race to the Top. And they want us to give letter or number grades to represent student education. And that's goes well against what we kind of are for at LACS. And so we have joined together as a community, and with help from the board and the administration, and said that this is not something we'd like to do, and they're reconsidering our waiver for this, and we hope that they will give us this waiver, and if not, we have found an inventive solution to get around it. So we just would like to thank everyone who's helped us out through all this, and continue to fight for what ACS stands for.
Anything else?
Yes, we have a whole list of things. We've been here, haven't been here for a while, so. Do you want to talk about graduation?
Sure. So one of the parts of graduation for a senior is the senior meetings, and that's where the senior presents their senior project. I did a blog about growing up and having to do things yourself, and then you have a little group of people, so I invited Joe and Judith Maxwell and a couple of my teachers, and some other of you, and some other people, and we just get to discuss I get to reflect on ACS and my experience, and they get to grade my senior project for me, and we get to have wonderful little snacks, and it's a really fun time to be able to talk to people about my school that I love so much. And also, our graduation is the 22nd at Ithaca College, and it's going to be a good time. There's lots of fun projects.
7 o'clock at Ford Hall, correct?
Yes, sorry, thank you.
That's all right. Good. Continue.
Well, we haven't spoken since LACS got back from Trips Week, and I'd just like to reflect a little bit about Trips Week. As a lot of you may know, LACS takes a week off every May and goes to different places around this area, state, country, and actually all over the world. We have people as far away as Paris and the British Virgin Islands. Trips are all focused on different aspects that students are interested in. I happened to go on a trip to New Orleans, and Joe, I think, has a video from that trip that he would like to have shown, and I don't know if that's something. Do you want to do that now, Joe?
It's very boring, and I'm just yeah.
If that's all right, we'd like to share it with you, but we understand the time constraint. It's about 4 minutes.
And certainly you can talk while it's being set up.
Yes, okay, of course, okay. Also, no, that's not for me, actually. Oh, this is my last board meeting. So.
You're not coming to the last one?
Oh, just joking, it's not my last one. Hopefully, actually it might be because I'm moving to Indiana actually. So if the next one falls.
There seems to be a lot going on in your life.
There is a lot, thank you. There's so much. I have to graduate, moving to Indiana, going to college. Crazy life.
All right. Well, I'd like to, I guess, talk a little bit about teacher retention. We talked a little bit about this at our site-based council meeting. We're just not 100% sure what's going on with all this, but we're just trying to find inventive ways to keep all of our teachers working through next year, and we hope to do that. And I guess other than that, the video would be it, but if we can't get the video started, then I'm sure
I've never had a problem with that.
If Dr. Brown can make it work, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
Good job.
I'm sure we'll have chances to watch it at some other point, so let's just move on with the meeting.
well, Judy Maxwell can explain how she can grade your. I'm trying to figure out how she can grade your final project without giving you a grade. So I'll get beyond that. So I'll figure this out someday. But anything else, guys? We all appreciate your reports. They've been excellent throughout the semester. Your colleagues in the fall semester did an excellent job, and Wendy and Naveed, always a great job. And we always appreciate hearing what's going on at LACS and those inventive ways we're going to do things.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure serving.
I'd like to say that as the board liaison to LACS and going to the site base, I have worked with you two through the whole year and have found it amazing and very enjoyable.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other board comments while we're doing this thing here? Stretching. It's a Mac. How could it not?
I don't know. I think it should be
My
end user. That's coming up.
So we keep working. No other comments at this time. Consent agenda. There in front of you.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Second by Josh. Any questions regarding any of the items?
I do.
Sean, go ahead.
Questions about the minutes, both the March 29th and the March 31st minutes. On page 10 of the March 29th minutes.
Go ahead, Sean.
The first paragraph up top, where it mentions Mr. Bradwell asked if the money comes from the state, what that would do to the percentage of budget, whatever that sentence is not clear to me. I hope we can make that sentence clear.
Could you repeat the sentence again?
Eversley Bradwell asked if money comes from the state, what that would do the percentage of the budget. And then, and the third paragraph, the last sentence, I don't recall making that statement, so if you can clarify that'd be helpful. I thought I asked that question, not that I stated that. Does that make sense? Then on the minutes of March 31st, a simple formatting error, the first paragraph about the pilot diversion consent resolution, the third or fourth sentence, it begins with Seth, also expressed, but it should probably say S. Peacock. And that's it.
Do you want to pull those, Sean, for next time, or?
If we're good with the revisions now, I'm good.
As long as everybody's good. Yep, good with the revisions? Okay, and Doreen has them noted. And the minutes will reflect those changes when they're put on the website. Anything else, anyone? All in favor? That's Eldred, that's all of us except Sean. Make it simple. And those opposed? That would be Sean. And Seth is not here. So it's the balance of the board. Okay? And I believe, are we doing anything over here?
Not yet. Not working.
So we'll We'll continue on at superintendent's report.
Sure. I have two quick items, but we have a guest that I need to come up quickly to share, to make a statement.
Good evening. I'm Douglas Ann Land, one of your Central New York School board members, association, I should say, board members. And typically at this time of year, every year, we run around to various board meetings and give our thanks to retiring board members, and we happen to have one this year, Josh. I know that this has been an incredibly difficult year. The past few years have been hard on all board members, and between getting a budget together, doing the superintendent search, which was obviously highly successful, negotiations, building projects, there's an incredible amount that needs to be done by our boards, and we at Central New York truly appreciate all of the efforts you, Josh, and the entire board make on a daily basis to ensure the best possible education and lives for all of your students. So thank you very much. He asked the best questions at our new board training session several years ago I've ever heard. Thank you.
There you go.
We're finishing up, I promise.
Anything else, Dr. Brown? Please.
Just a couple, I would like to thank you, Mr. Weinstein, also for what you've done for me personally and professionally, period. So thank you. Secondly, graduation rates were released today. We are compiling the data and disaggregating a little bit. We hope to come before you on the 28th with a more comprehensive report. Early indications show that our graduation rates have increased in all areas for all membership groups, so we're happy about that. But we wish to show you trend lines and share. There are 4 different, if I'm not mistaken, there are 4 different graduation rates to look at. We want to make sure we spend time talking through what each one means and what they're looking to say. So again, the graduation rates came out today, and we're going to report back on the 28th. And quickly, just wanted to let the board know that I will be in Charleston, South Carolina, going south next weekend. Charleston, South Carolina, I was selected, I'm one of 74 superintendents selected, African-American superintendents selected throughout the country to come to a national leadership summit. What I've learned is that there are only 366 African-American superintendents in the entire country, and that's out of over 14,000 public school districts. So I've been invited to come to Charleston next weekend and talk about that particular issue and what we can do to increase the number of African-American superintendents in the country, and then also talk about some contemporary issues in education, which are all on the table, as we all know right now. But just to let you know that we're going south, and I hear it's a little warm. 40 plus degrees. And I think we may be ready for the video, or not.
It will be nice tomorrow, Dr. Brown.
The tech display, and then we're going to have to punt on the video. I don't know.
Just drag it over, Steve. No, you can't.
Yeah.
And we have a software issue, a bad apple. Every once in a while you get one of those. We can come back. All right.
We'll do it later if the apple proves not to be rotten. So on to item A of school district's business, and that is a presentation regarding the food service.
We're going to need to hook.
Yeah, and I'll invite Ms. Denise Dowdy to the table, and I think she has some company with her as well.
And we have to reconnect, I believe. You know how I love technology, Dr. Brown. I will point out that Still working on it. It was up and running just before, frankly, LACS got involved, and here you go. So,
We apologize.
you know, no, it's,
We don't apologize.
No, we don't apologize. Never mind.
never say you're sorry.
Exactly. Hold your ground.
Can I suggest we move to item 5, Roman 5, while they work on the technology?
That's where I am.
I'm sure everybody very well gave us everything in paper, and we're not going to break that.
Do you want to, as much as I could?
Yeah. I appreciate the old technology.
Sean, do you want to go ahead and walk through the policies now?
It's dependent upon you. I actually think the policy discussion we're going to have this evening will be relatively substantial and extensive. It's not going to be, but we can do one at a time if we want to and come back. It is going to require the assistance of Dr. Leslie Myers.
Let's do the item. Let's go ahead and do item B, which is district-wide initiatives.
Good.
And
With that.
and we're going to go ahead and do that while there's huddling going on.
And I'll invite the executive team members to the table, and we're going to lead a discussion. Oh, there we go. Just pass those around.
Steve is so smart. ACS pulling it together.
There you go. All right, we're all set. So we'll transition into this piece as soon as we're done with the food service.
Just like it says on the agenda.
Just like it says.
Well, first of all, I'm here to represent the Child Nutrition Program. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, let's turn the music off so we can hear you.
Actually, music comes from entered into a Grammy from PJM students, so it's the raw vegetable.
You're going to have to speak over it then.
Okay.
And remember, you're speaking on television as well, so the music's going to be very distracting.
Okay. Right, so first of all, working with the Child Nutrition Program, our goal is to create healthy school foods for creates healthy students. This is working in kitchens. We're serving all kinds of fruits and vegetables right now. I'm now going to list some of our achievements that we've been going through. We've been working with a partnership. It's called Whole School Food, and it works with the New York Coalition for Healthy School Food. We've been working with Moosewood Restaurant. We've been working with Cuba Pure Organics, a local farm in the area. Italian Carryout has also been helping with us. We're working with the Farm to School program, and we're featured in the Farm to School newsletter. Cool School Foods, we're developing entrees using local organic beans and grains. Some of the recipes that we work with is the Mexican lasagna, a Tuscan tomato pie, and a beanie burgers, and these are all vegetarian with local beans and grains. The Cool School Food with the project, we've been tested in all the elementary schools, so all the students are getting a chance to try it before they actually order it from the menu. And that's after we try it, the taste testing, we do put it on the menu so they get a chance to try it. Cool School Foods, the Mexican lasagna, we did enter into a USDA Recipe Kids Challenge contest, and we worked with the food team, kitchen staff, students, parents. We set it up on international night, so a variety of people got to try it before we actually entered it on USDA. We working with Ithaca Community Harvest with Laura Kaufman. She was the lead coordinator, and we worked with a whole group of farmers, worked from farmers to schools to families. They donated 350 squash that we served, or we spread out through the whole district. So it was right around Thanksgiving time we passed on, and everybody created their own recipe with the squash. We also worked with Professors Brian Watsink and David Just. They work up at the Cornell Research Food Lab at the Cornell. They do lunch line redesign. They have a USDA grant to encourage healthier choices for students. And this February, we entered the downtown Ithaca Chili Cook-Off. And the staff did a great job. They placed second in People's Choice Awards. Ithaca Child Nutrition Program, Sustainability. We're still using with compostable trays. We're working with the compost program, working with the farm to school programs, and homemade bean-based entrees, and less processed foods is our goal.
Denise, while you're on the compostable trays, just want to mention that was in the budget. The district was paying for those. We're no longer paying, correct?
It stays within our own budget, so it's not, we're doing it.
Right, food service is buying.
Yeah, we're doing it.
It was outside of it.
It was, yeah, so we're still working hard on it.
Good.
Can I hit that one more time? For folks who might have missed that. 2 years ago, we thought this compostable trays thing, well, that's a great idea. It's a great idea. We're willing actually to go over budget to the tune of, it was between $30,000 and $60,000.
Yeah.
Right.
To support that. Well, Denise and the team have now brought that program on budget. Right now it's not caught. So it's a great idea, and we're doing it within our budget. It's a beautiful thing. I just wanted to kind of get that.
But with the budgets the way they've been, there wasn't really a way that we could pull that money out of the general operating, and so that's been, so food service is taking that back over. Right.
Thank you. This is new. We've been doing that summer program for many of years, but this is going to be the first year. We're extending it from June 27th, so right when children are out of school, they have a chance to eat all summer long. We're doing a breakfast and lunch program. It's open sites at Northside Community Center and Southside Community Center all the way through September 2nd. Usually the kids are eating when the 6 week, they have their summer camps and stuff. Now they're going to be able to extend that all summer long, be able to have meals. Okay?
How do we fund this?
Yeah. It's state funded with the government.
So this is a newly funded program, or it's
No,
large?
it's always been there. It's just it's extended. We're doing the exact same thing. It's with community centers, but the government subsidizes reimbursements. So it's even there's volunteers that are working in the community centers, and they're
Right. Denise, for example, out in Enfield, the Enfield summer day camp, the district has provided breakfast and lunch out there for that day camp period. That's
exactly.
6 weeks, right?
Actually, Enfield runs their own program.
Right.
We're the sponsor, so we provide the food.
Right, exactly.
What about Caroline?
I'm working on that right now. There's it goes up and down. There's a lot going on, and a lot it has a lot to do with it. I worked with Caroline, and I'm also working with Enfield. Enfield also wants to work in downtown. They also want to extend out to their area. This is the first year where I'm just here in the morning. I've been talking to Caroline people, and Caroline's funny because they have way up and way low, and they're not into the where I could right now, but we are working on that. Okay, and then it has the lunch times. We've sent out flyers, so there is. All these campsites are open to all children, 18 and younger. And last, the Ithaca Child Nutrition Program. This is only the beginning, so we're going to be doing a lot more positive changes, thanks to the students, staff, organizations, volunteers, administrators, and everybody that's supporting us. And we're looking forward to healthy lifestyle for our children.
Questions for Denise? Anyone?
Question about the, Denise, how have you successfully begun to market these healthy food options to students in line? What looks and feels different when the child is walking through the line?
How we started is actually, I think the taste tests have helped out a lot. We, when we go taste testing to a school, near Amy from New York Coalition for Healthy School Foods, she helps us with stickers and balloons, and it kind of, the kids notice something is going on different. So when after we're doing it a couple times, they're all excited. They come into the cafeterias and they know us now. So we've done it a couple times in each of the schools, and we made it to every elementary school. We're not just doing it in 1 or 2 schools. We hit every single elementary school. So that familiarizes them with the new entrees, and then that's what we mark it on the menu for the next following month.
Okay. And I have a follow-up question. Okay, then you can...
No, go. Sure. Your thoughts? Yes, of course.
Sure.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Can you talk more about how you've incorporated local farmers into the food delivery mechanism? You glossed over that, but we have a couple of people who know a lot about that, so.
Okay, so we've been working, actually the Cubic Pure Organics is a local, it's a farm in Caroline, and they do grains and beans, and we're purchasing from the local farmers instead of going out. Actually, and they have beans that are there that are processed different than any other black, we're working with the black beans lot right now, and they're frozen products, so it's a new product on top of a local farmer, and we're expanding that now because I just got some more information on other local farmers that are interested in working with us. So we'll work with the bid process now and try and get some more. We've dealt with, for years we have bought local apples and stuff. This is the first year we've worked with actual dry beans and making the entrees with them.
My question is, you actually mentioned ACS in the slideshow on how we helped give out the squash, but I was wondering what else would ACS be involved with, because I know that we have it's not ours, but ACS is really involved with the local, or what's it called? The farm.
Oh, the youth farm project.
The youth farm project, and I was just wondering how that was going to be involved.
How the
youth farm was going to be involved.
Actually, what happened was last year when we received the squash, what happened is the farms, it was at the end of their season, and it was a co-ops that where you purchase into the farms, and these were like a leftover a squash that, I mean, it's still great, but they didn't have any use for it, so they donated it to the Ithaca School District.
Gotcha.
Can you just touch briefly on the lunch line redesign? Okay. So those are the guys from Cornell, and obviously they've done studies. How did that affect what you do, just quickly?
Actually, that was another big project we did, and that's going to be in September. It's going to be advertised on Channel 1 News in New York, because they came up from New York City, and what they did is we had hidden cameras, and we went through our lunch lines at Boynton Middle School as they were set up. The professors came in and put their input on and changed, like put the fruit at the end of the line so it's near the register. They put the healthier choices at the beginning of the line so the students would be able to see them. And they did 10 different changes. And then we had the students come through again, and we had hidden cameras, and it showed, so everybody was on camera, so it showed some changes were successful, some were not. But this was the first time they've made 10 different changes for the line, so we're just for healthy choices. It makes the students make their own choices without making it for them.
Sounds great to me. Of course, there's all sorts of permissions to have hidden cameras in our
We
lunch
did.
lines, and
And
so we're real good, yeah.
We did.
Okay, great. I'm breathing a sigh of relief, so Sean's gonna go ahead.
I am not, and I would respectfully like to see this link ahead of time if I could, if there's a story, or I'd like to see the list of the, if there's a way in which we get some sort of summary of the line changes, that'd be great. I'm just interested in seeing what kind of things like
Actually,
that.
I could email you the girl that we're working with.
That'd be great.
Denise, I guess the main points are you're making fairly dramatic changes to buy more local and make the choices, make it easier to eat healthier throughout the day in our district. Right.
So, small change, it takes time, small changes, but we're gonna get there.
I would just say it's another good example to us of how leadership matters. So,
Thank you.
And one last comment.
I just want to say that I didn't ask Denise if I could say something, but I'm just going to say this. I work with food service directors all over the state, and my organization is in a formal partnership with the New York City Office of School Food, which is the largest school food service operation in the country, and we're in 19 schools in New York City. I have never seen a food service director like Denise before. She is amazing. Everything that she does and all the effort that she puts into things is just phenomenal. You have a real gift in Denise.
Well, I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. On to district-wide initiatives, Dr. Brown.
Sure, and I'll invite our team to the table, executive team to the table to walk through a document.
It's on paper.
You on paper? Yeah.
Okay.
Come on up.
You want these extras here, Dr. Brown?
Oh, yeah, you give them to Bob. Yeah. Thank you very much. As you know, we're definitely in the build-up phase. We're laying some very important groundwork for our quest to excellence. We've been using teaching and the learning framework as a head-start concept across the learning communities and the implementation of human capital as a key head-start concept. What we wish to do tonight is just give you an update on where we are with those individual head-start concepts. What's important to note is how they're interrelated. You'll see some things that probably could be in one column or the next. You'll see some things that we may refer to in the PLC category that could also be part of the teaching and learning framework work, could also be part of the human capital work. That's good. Again, we're working on these things at the same time. We're working on them at a pretty rapid pace as well. But we have the team together to sort of walk you through where we are right now. Karen, and we hope that you have some questions and we're here to answer. But some work is going to happen this summer and has already been happening. We should catch you up. Ms. Summer, you wish to start with teaching and learning framework and talk about where we are with that right now.
Sure. I have been working with a number of different folks throughout the district over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 months in developing what began as a curricular framework with the curriculum chairs initially, and Lauren Fessler, our .6 director of curriculum and assessment, essentially. So as we move through reviewing the pieces of the curriculum framework, we soon realized that we should rename this document so that it really sort of conjured up the right image when it was mentioned. And so we have renamed it to be called the Teaching and Learning Framework, which is really highlighting how we will define rigor for the district and how we will move from good to great or from good to excellence. In this document, again, over the last 3 or 4 months, I've been meeting with curriculum chairs, teachers in the district, other instructional leaders, folks from central office, and from all different levels within the organization. And we have identified several pieces of this document, which will continue to be a working document as we move forward. It has about 8 different components that I won't go into in detail, but we have agreed that it will include how we will go after, what kind of instruction we will define as excellent in this district that have proven to be high-yielding instructional strategies in terms of student achievement. We are basing a lot of the work in the framework, again, around the research that we know is sound, around Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive domain and how we will ensure that students are engaged in critical thinking and more of the higher order processes, thinking processes. We want to ensure student engagement. We want to define student engagement in this district and ensure that we have high levels of engagement versus ritualistic compliance or strategic compliance, for example. We want to take a look at the content maps that we have and see how we can sort of realign them with the work that we are completing as a part of this framework. I have talked about the documents that live in the curriculum database, the content maps, and how we might be able to build on what's there, a value, and modify some of the work that's there, again, to meet the demands of the framework that we're developing. We will have a balanced assessment matrix in the teaching and learning framework document. We have reviewed as a team, again, over the last 3 to 4 months, the common assessments that already exist in the district, and we are much further along, I'm glad to report, at the elementary level. And at the secondary level, we have some work to do, but I think we're at a good starting point. And we have a lot of teachers working with us and towards the same, promoting the same purpose of building this common assessment model. And that work will continue in the Summer Professional Development Institute, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The other pieces that we're looking at, of course, is a glossary of terms so that people, when they read the document, they understand what we mean by the language that we're using. We're certainly looking for alignment with the Common Core in terms of the work that's completed, and we're also looking at alignment with the national technology standards that we talked about actually during the last meeting, the last board meeting. Do you have any questions about the teaching and learning framework? I know on June 28th I'm really going to go into a lot deeper, detailed discussion about this document. But just as...
It sounds to me like, I just want to pull something out that I think I heard you say, which is we've also got numerous places within the district that are terrific examples of kind of teaching and learning that we want to do. And so that, because that's what's been so striking to me about the last 6 months, right, is that so many folks in our faculty feel recalled to the kind of teaching they love and want to do, and measuring what they value rather than just valuing what they measure, right? And that sense that, you know, wow, we have known how to do this. We perhaps have not been doing it because we've been serving other masters in some ways, right? But that this is an opportunity to bring that back to life. And I'm assuming that that's a big piece of how this framework is coming out.
I think that's part of it, and I think we also will realize that many of our teachers are engaged in some of the, in particular, the Marzano strategies, of what people sort of identify with as Marzano strategies. And Dr. Robert Marzano is a researcher who has really looked at the best work in instructional practices and sort of combined them in one very resourceful book, right? So he's, again, borrowed the work of many others and put them in one place. And I think that when we look at this document, when we examine it closely and we examine the practices that exist in the district and the professional development opportunities that we've engaged our teachers in, we will see that there is alignment. I can cite the work of Lydia Ali and Lee Ginenthal in terms of previous professional development that, again, our instructors have been engaged in that are aligned with Marzano's strategies and, in fact, exemplify his strategies.
One of the other beautiful things about this anchor document or a framework is when we recruit and retain, and Bob's going to talk about that later, we put this out there and say this is what we're about as a district. It's not hidden. It's not, I hope that this district is about that. This district is about implementing best practices when it comes to teaching and learning, period. This is how we assess. This is what we want to see when we look at assessment. This is what we want to see when we look for engagement. And we think it's going to be an attractor for many powerful educators who want to be reawakened around this work.
I just have a question. For clarity, now you guys are working in the black box of magic you do, and if we're not in the business, it's hard for me to pierce that veil. So I'm going to do what I try to do, ask a simple question. You know, I followed some students, right? I followed some kids in middle school, high school. I've been in the classrooms now. I follow them all day. I've eaten a wonderful lunch. It's amazing. So there's a social teacher in Boynton, whose name I won't mention because I didn't talk to her about saying this first. I walked into her classroom and saw the students reenacting one of the most important cases in 20th century jurisprudence, the Pullman case. Right? She had juries, some of the students were judges, there was prosecution, well not prosecution, it wasn't criminal, but she had both sides represented, and I sat there in amazement. The students were absolutely engaged, they got it. She introduced me as somebody who had practiced, they all ran up to me afterwards. I sat there and thought, well, here's a model of excellence. Right? How do you, in your black box, port that model and make sure that all of the children who are going through social studies in Boynton receive a similar experience? I mean, from my perspective, it was winning. It was exactly what we say we want in education. So, as a layperson, help me translate all the wonderful things you said and the guy's name who begins with M, who I've already forgotten. How do we translate that into making such teaching excellence a standard across at least the middle school experience?
Can I take this one, Connie? Because I don't know. I'm so excited that I listened to the question.
That short little question that you kind of got.
Thank you for bringing that up. But what you mentioned is the document. Right. The document is what you mentioned. And now we are able to put that in front of every educator in the district. We're able to put that in front of every administrator, and administrators, we want you to look for that in every classroom. And if you don't see it, what kind of staff development opportunities will we provide to get everyone to that place? But right now, you saw it, I've seen that classroom, some other folks have seen it, but where have we defined that that's what we're going after? Where have we, is it on video? Are we showing it to our administrators to replicate? Are we sending other teachers to their classroom to do it? With this anchor document and saying that that's exactly what we want to go after, now we have an opportunity to get away from this loose coupling and this randomness and have every classroom be just that. And some folks will criticize us for starting at such a very basic level. You're going to just write a document that really says what you want? Yes, we're going to write a document that really goes after just that so that we can hold ourselves accountable for it.
So then in my research, particularly around students who have experienced some difficulty, we keep coming up with two things around notions of curricular framework, but now I understand teaching and learning framework. One is the idea of curricular relevance to their lives, and particularly the ways in which those get culturally coded. So the other one is also this notion of cultural competence, of the pedagogy of the teacher, but as well as the content. And so I'm wondering, I didn't hear anything about that, I've seen anything about that being explicit in this so far, but I want to know how upfront is that, let me rephrase that. I want it to be upfront, and so I'm wondering how upfront that's going to be.
Sure. Well, you've heard me say greater relevance and relationships often, and that will be in the intro and will be in the front of this document. Will it be a separate section? No, because I'm hoping that it will be part of every section. Marzano's best practices or instructional strategies. Cultural competence is part of that, and hopefully we'll have a piece around technology and around cultural competence that addresses each one of those strategies. Engagement. A great document, when we start talking about engagement, what does it look like to engage a student using culturally competent strategies? So it will be inherent throughout the document, maybe not so explicit, but a part of what we do. Just like, I mean, we don't have a technology section. Technology will be a part of every section in the framework. So I appreciate the question, and I'm hoping that everyone will hold us accountable for making sure that's part of the work we do without it being explicit every time.
Josh.
And I'd say a piece that I could anticipate is going to land in the policy committee. Because there's been some work done, especially over the last couple of weeks, to draft a definition of what full inclusion looks like. That came out of special ed stuff. But when it gets to becoming an inclusion policy, it's going to be, I anticipate and hope it'll be broader than that. And we'll say, we teach everybody in the classroom, and here are our expectations for how that's going to work. So I expect that'll be also the kind of anchor document, I hope anyways, That'll be the kind of anchor document that helps to support this work, but the part of the work I expect the board will be doing over the course of next year to also advance this.
Can you just shift to the quick?
The Summer Professional Development Institute is happening the first 2 weeks in August. The first couple of days will be focused on providing an opportunity for specific individuals in the district from every school, from all 12 schools, to participate in professional development around the professional learning community. So we've invited some professional consultants from Rick Dufour's company, Rick and Becky Dufour's company, Solution Tree, who developed the idea of professional learning communities formally, even though many districts were engaged in collaborative work. They formalized the work and have been sharing the work across the country. And so, again, consultants from that company will come to our school district on the 1st and 2nd and engage folks from all 12 schools in a professional development opportunity for that particular topic. The next couple of days will be focused on these high-yield instructional strategies. The next day, and that will be led by Lee Ginenthal and Lydia Ali, who were former professional developers in the district, still work in the district as teachers. And the last day will focus on the engagement piece in terms of how we will define it and the key performance indicators that we will gauge student engagement around in this district. The next week is focused on curriculum writing and ensuring that our curriculum is aligned with the Common Core. Specifically, we are looking at ELA and math, K-12, and we have developed teams again with the assistance of the critical assistance of the principals in identifying folks, instructional leaders in the district who are interested in doing this work. And so those folks will work in teams over a 5-day period. In the second week, again, aligning the Common Core in ELA and math, and we're focused on ELA and math because, of course, those are the places where the state is targeted. Those are the disciplines the state is targeted for the new bar they have set around the Common Core relative to state testing. We will also be taking a look at, again, the common assessments that we agree already exist in the district and developing the common quarterly assessments that we will maintain as part of our balanced assessment matrix in the district. And so we understand as a district that it's important to not only include what the state and federal government mandates as part of our assessment model, but again, measuring what we value and creating that together so that we have a common understanding of what we want our students to know and be able to do in terms of the outcomes for every grade level and outcomes for graduation from this district.
So we can shift down the PLC work. We want this.
This Professional Development Institute, are you, how are you deciding who attends? Are you inviting them, or the teachers are volunteering? What's the deal on that?
Yes, we've asked the principals to invite teachers who are willing to be a part of this work in the summer, and those teachers also have committed, particularly the ones in the second week, have committed to continuing the work throughout the year relative to curriculum writing and reviewing the assessments.
And Mr. Should we have a limited number of spots because we're paying teachers to come in, and so we couldn't invite the entire district or allow for everyone in the district to come. So we depended on our leadership at the building level to identify and to encourage, in some instances, folks to come and participate in this work.
So many teachers per school?
Yeah, we had proportionate. And I think we have a total of 200 or more, 200 teachers that are going to be coming. And part of, and they're going to be compensated at the contractual rate.
For 2 weeks, 200?
200 in the first week, and it's more like, and I don't want to, it's about around 50.
No, it's actually
200 both weeks.
Yeah, it's about 150 participants for both weeks.
Both weeks.
Yeah.
Different or the same?
So they're different, and some are the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going to be doing it where?
Well, we find space. We're looking at the high school and some here in this building, but we'll be where it is air conditioning. Well, and if we can just move along to the PLC work, and Connie mentioned the balanced assessment matrix. But I want to quickly update you on the balanced scorecard and departmental metrics. We've talked about how we're going to look at data much more dynamically going forward. And with that said, we've had Mr. Moon meet with all of our individual central level department leaders to develop individual metrics for the department. And I wish I had some examples on the top of my head, but I know we'll have, for transportation, for food services, each one of those departments will have some quarterly metrics they're going to be monitoring and we'll be reporting out on. Not only is the work of establishing metrics at the departmental level and at the district level, which we'll be also establishing, we've been looking at tools that will allow us to transparently display that information for everyone. We're looking at some dashboards, so hopefully on your devices you'll be able to click on your dashboard and you'll get data regarding every department in the district and the district in seconds. And then you should be able to drill down to individual schools, hopefully, as we get into the school level and district level data, achievement data. So we're working on that. We've identified the tools to do it. We've identified many of the metrics, and we'll be bringing that back to you as we get into our summer work and into the fall work. In addition to the dynamic data, which we'll look at quarterly, we're also establishing some annual metrics that we want to put in the form of some kind of a dashboard. For example, the graduation rates, our enrollment in AP, those kind of things are things that we look at once a year, those snapshot pieces. We're going to have that in one place so that you won't just get it at a June 28th meeting, get something about graduation data. At another meeting, you may get something about AP data. We're going to have all that data in one place so that if you're asked about it or if you wish to know, you'll have it. Not only we have the annual data, then you'll be able to drill down into some quarterly data that will sort of inform how we're doing at a more summative nature. So we're working on that data piece. We're identifying the metrics. We've identified the tools, the electronic tools to capture it and then also report it out. Any questions on it? And I put that in the PLC section because the first tenet of PLC work is results driven. So in order for us to begin to have conversations about how we're going to improve results, we need to figure out what we're going to measure. So that's why we've been engaging in those conversations now with respect to the PLC work. Questions around PLC before we move into human capital and the Van Human.
Anything? Very good.
Thank you very much. Just a quick update on some human capital work. Recruitment and retention, as most of you will recall, some of you even actually worked on the project Recruitment and Retention Equity Work Group. Created a long list of items which would assist the district in its recruitment and retention of teachers. We're now doing the work of trying to implement as many of those recommendations as is feasible at this time, and I won't go through the list, but we certainly are starting with a focus of training our administrators and chair people who do the screening and interviewing. With respect, a quick update on the elementary principal searches. We cast a broad web, and we have 86 applicants. So it's a really, I think, a strong pool of applicants. Just a number, I've already gone through a number of them. There were some sitting principals in that, so we're going to have a strong group. I met with stakeholders from both elementary schools last week and the week before, groups of about 12 to 15, representing teachers and parents and other staff people. They essentially, we brainstormed their characteristics that they're looking for in a new leader. They're also going to act as sort of my eyes and ears and try to gather some more parental and staff input on potential questions that we can ask in the interview process of the applicants. The screenings will take place over 2 days next week. Each school is doing their own screening, so one school will be 2 days, the other school 2 separate days. I will try to lead as much of that process as I can. And then the interviews will have a rapid turnaround on the interviews so that hopefully we can have a good candidate identified and placed. I won't give a date, but as soon as feasible. Another thing we did this year, relying on principal input of a number of teachers who really were outstanding educators, but were only appointed to 1 year only assignments for this school year. Relying again on principal input with them, we streamlined the process and were able to offer 2 positions to teachers of color who really were outstanding. In fact, principals were essentially fighting over who would get them in their buildings. We also know that both of those educators were in the process, because they were cut one-year assignments only, of looking to other districts for full-time employment. So both of them were very happy that we were able to offer them positions. They've accepted, and they'll be with us next year. Assistant Director of Human Resources. We're looking internally on how to secure long-term funding, so that position will be a viable position that won't be so subject to downturns in the budget. In the interim, we, in an effort to support a grow your own type process, we're going to probably have an administrative internship assist in that position as we work towards a more full-time permanent solution. Did I miss anything? I don't think so.
I heard you talk about search for 2 schools and there's a third one.
Yeah, the third one will be underway in full force very rapidly.
Sure.
Yep.
Say it again?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
thank you.
The third item says PLC coordinators, and as you know, we have moved very quickly to move that particular concept forward. So what I've heard commonly from teachers on the front lines is, I still am not understanding what exactly this means and how the practical application of that, of what this entails for me as a teacher. So we've met with all of the secondary principals, so the 2 middle school principals, ACS and IHS, to talk about what might that look like in practice and how might we assist our teachers in a more concerted way. And so this is not additional staffing in that we're asking for 4 more positions, but it's a reallocation of current FTE. It would involve teacher leaders to work in the different content areas to, 1, coordinate PLCs across the secondary level, so just 6-12, aligning curriculum, and then working with staff development. I know that I've heard from at least the board that there's a concern of professional development and that we need a more robust department. These individuals would be able to assist with that. And you know, one of the strongest, I think, arguments for this is the ability to have teachers leading this work, and that they would be working in concert with our secondary administrators, but they are coming just right out of the classroom, and the ability just to really work with teachers, help them with their pedagogical practice, you know, tighten up lessons, work, you know, with all of the hedgehog concepts that we're trying to move forward in a very rapid way. So I think it's a really good opportunity and a nice shift for us as a district.
Can I ask how the FTE is going to be?
Sure. Can I just add, and I'm glad Susan's here, we recognize that these positions, because there'll be shifts, potential shifts in FTE within the contract, we're looking forward to working collaboratively with Susan and the ITA. This is really just the first, you know, broad stroke, and to talk to the board about our vision, and then obviously there'll be a lot of work and discussion, collaboration with Susan and her team. So in response to your question, we have to determine where that FTE will not be additional FTE to the budget, but where the FTE will be pulled from will still be part of the discussion with the ITA.
Okay, I do have a concern, and I know why you're taking, you know, teacher leaders, but being a teacher, and you're taking, you know, supposedly the best or the out of the classroom bothers me.
It's best practice, actually.
I know, but it still bothers me that the kids, I know.
That FTE that we're looking at may potentially come from release time or extra FTE given to department leaders working right now. So that time is already away from young people in
yeah, which is my concern.
Yeah. So it's already there, just repurposing it, that release time.
And, you know, hopefully the folks who are out of the classroom can help us grow teachers that when they return to the classroom will be master educators.
Anything else?
I get a question. Back to the first bullet point, implementation of R&R work.
Yeah.
I'm assuming for your purposes, there's no easy mechanism that you can use to communicate this, right? We're talking draft documents and some of the other instances. Your work is of a different nature. My communications with the people who worked on the document would lead me to believe that they don't know what you just said. They have no idea that the policies are being taken seriously, that all that work they did is meaningful, that you're working on it. So that's a pretty significant disconnect.
They've expressed that concern to me as well, and hopefully I think with some recent conversations that have taken place, that notion will start to be dispelled as they see internally what's happening. And you're right. I need to keep them better informed so that they see that that's happening.
Well, HR meets next week. That's a perfect time to have some more depth, right? So anybody who's watching on the board, whatever, wants to have that conversation, that would be the perfect place to discuss it.
Anything else? Thank you for allowing us that time.
Something else.
Sorry.
So go ahead, Jeff.
Dr. Brandon, just as another, I think, helpful reminder, maybe next time we get together or in July when the new board starts, I think it'll also be helpful for folks to hear about how the project management way of organizing the work is going forward, so that folks know how to plug in, where to plug in, and so forth. We can see it going forward, but I think it's such a different way of doing business.
Thanks for that. Thanks. When we talk about the Teaching and Learning Framework Institute, that's been managed as a charter, a project management charter. And so maybe at the 28th meeting, we bring that charter and we show you how we've gone through the process of putting together what is essentially a major summer conference, how we've gone about doing that work as an internal team and through the project management process. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Good, Dr. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you, Connie, Leslie. Items C through K are policies and procedures relating to the student code of conduct. And I'm going to ask Sean to lead the way here a bit.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to steal much of Dr. Meyer's thunder. What you have here are two things. I'm sure she'll explain it much better than myself, but we are mandated each year to review and update the Student Code of Conduct Manual. That has been done through a committee work. Along with the updating of that document, the changes in that document also necessitated a change in various policies. And so you see here are the policies listed first that are changed, and then at the end you see the documents, the Student Conduct Manual, Detailed Procedures, and the Student Code of Conduct, both J and K. This is a first reading for all of these, so any questions, comments, changes, there's still plenty of time for us to make this happen for the second reading. I don't know how best to proceed, rather than just go down the list and see where conversations, questions, comments we may have. Dr. Myers is here, and I don't know if you have the summary sheet.
I do.
Do you have copies of it by any chance? No, I don't think I think I sent it to everybody, but I didn't bring a paper copy for folks to read.
You want me to do that quickly?
It may be helpful folks to have that in front of them as we proceed through.
No. Okay.
Do you want me to go to Sure.
Just the front and back, right?
Yep. What I need you to do is, because I wrote on mine, no.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to just have to step out for just a second.
Maybe it's not that necessary.
Okay.
We have it here. All board members received a number of attachments from me. Hopefully you're able to open them after a number of go-rounds. They included a detailed marked copy of the Student Conduct Manual that showed all the changes, and as well as a clean version of that.
I actually, if you allow me to, I can show it on the screen if that's okay, because it's on the website.
Yeah, please be, bring it up there. You also received a one-sheet summary of all the changes to the Code of Conduct and the attendant policies. And then I tried to send each individual policy to other board members as well that showed up the marked changes. And so we can bring these up as needed. I don't know, some may require more conversation than others, but if it's okay with you, Dr. Myers, how about we just run on the list of going down?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
We'll begin with policy 5020 and work our way down.
Okay.
Works for you. If this is some things that you want to say to set the context.
Can I make an amendment to your recommendation?
By all means.
What might be easier is if we go through the plain language first, which is the shorter version. Then as we go through the Code of Conduct, as I show the summary, I have it oriented in alphabetic order, and then the policies that are changed under there, we could go through the policies and just check them off. It just seems like it might flow better as far as scope and sequence, but I can be agreeable to whatever you want me to do.
Could we make it happen?
Okay. So first, we have the plain, let me just explain something quickly. The Code of Conduct, we have two Code of Conducts. One is the plain language summary, which is sent home to all of our families, K through graduation. They're given to all of our educators in the district at the beginning of the school year. And we have a review of the plain language. So it's a condensed, a Reader's Digest condensed version of the Code of Conduct. And that document is about 28 pages. Then we have the detailed procedures document, which is about 50-something pages in length. That is the document that all of our administrators have, and it lists everything. It's basically the framework of the skeleton of how we do business relative to Student Bill of Rights, discipline, maintaining safety in our schools. So as far as the plain language is concerned, we have the following modifications. And just before I go into detail, the plain language, both the track change, so if people want to see what the 2010-11 versus our for 11-12, the track changes are all listed, and then we have a clean copy that's listed. Same thing with the detailed procedures, track changes, and then the clean copy, and then we have that one-page summary, and that was posted over the weekend to our website. So people, if they want to look at it that way, we also have copies in Dr. Brown's office with Doreen, and then we have copies, all of those copies in my office as well.
Just by way of clarification, can you tell both the public and the board where to obtain those copies and the reason why we post them publicly?
Yes, we do have to make them public, even though we've held several meetings, we've solicited feedback from a variety of stakeholders in a variety of ways. We still have to make that document public in case some way, somehow, the net that we cast didn't catch everyone. We still could receive feedback from anyone.
And where can they find those documents at?
Documents are located in the superintendent's office, and then my office is the assistant superintendent of student services. They're located with our clerical staff.
And on the website.
And on the website.
Yes, so where on the website?
Oh, it's right on the main page. As soon as you click on www.icsd.k12.ny.us, it's right there. Okay? All right. So for the plain language, on pages Roman numerals 6 through 7, what was modified obviously was our school conduct advisory committee. So the members of that committee change from year to year. So that information is listed. And then every year I provide updates for to include when we held the varied meetings, how we solicited feedback, so people can know how modifications or edits or suggestions were incorporated into the new Code of Conduct. Then the second bullet on the introduction, pages 1 through 7, we just kind of reoriented the mission and opening statement, and then there was a considerable amount of time spent making modifications to the roles of adults and students. So just saying what's the expected behavior, starting with the Board of Education, the superintendents, assistant superintendents, teachers, student support services, as well as students. So we just really made the language much more restorative, and we tried to clean the language up and make it cleaner. On pages 11 through 12, we have the restore section. It's entitled Total Participation. And there's new language for discretion to allow electronic devices in class if the educator can demonstrate effective use in the instructional program. We really felt that that was important to monitor.
Saw that one. Yeah.
Pardon me?
Saw that one.
Oh, okay. And just a quick aside, when I went into the high school, Ithaca High School on April 15th to conduct the feedback section with the students, the very first activity I did was I asked the students to pull their cell phones out. Now some of them were big, bad, and bold and pulled them out and slapped them on the table. Some students were a little more skeptical and said, well, wait a minute, aren't you the assistant superintendent that oversees this? Might you snatch my cell phone and you pull it out?
You just try to trick them, they pull them out, then they're gone. Oh, yeah. You know what you got.
And I think the amazing thing that day, I saw, I think, around about 145 students. And of the 145 students, and those on the policy committee, I just asked you to remain silent. But how many of those students do you think did not have a cell phone that day? This is call and response. How many? 2. 0. 10. 1. 2. So when we talk about our Board of Education priority about, people are always concerned, well, if students have particular means, we only had 2 students that day that didn't have a cell phone in school. So we know that they are alive and well. We know that they're using them. So we really felt it important to modify our policy to incorporate effective use as long as it has an instructional focus, okay? And then under the restore section of every person, pages 14 through 15, there's new language because we needed to include the proper terms for protected characteristics along the lines of race, sexual orientation, those protected characteristics. There's new language from our attorneys. So those are the major changes to the plain language summary. So there are no, with the exception of the entire document, that's the modification to policy 5310. You can wrap your head around that. 5310 is the entire plain language summary. So that's why it's on as a policy. But then I gave you what the major changes were in that policy. Okay, any questions about that so far? Okay. Then for the detailed procedures. I'll go through this as quickly, and I think I really can knock quite a bit of time off here. Athletic academic eligibility, you all are aware that that policy was revised, so we needed to include that language in the Code of Conduct. That's on pages 3 through 5. So there was new language specifically relative to the levels of eligibility rules, what needed to happen if students started to slip as far as...
I just had a quick question about that. On
Yes.
page 4,
Yes.
level 1 academic monitoring, it says any student with one grade of below 65 to 69 will be eligible to participate and will be supported with academic monitoring, but level 2 says any student with one grade of below, is that below supposed to be between 65 to 69 on level 1?
It should say 65 or below. It's a typo.
Well, 65 or below is level 2.
No, 2 grades of 65.
2 grades of 65 to 69 or 1 grade of below 65 is level 2, and level 1 is 1 grade of, it says below 65 to 69, but I thought it should be
65 to 69.
of just 65 to 69 keeps them eligible to participate. I just thought the word below was a mistake in level 1.
No, it's not, and this is the problem with us translating letter grades from numerical grades. At one point in time, level 1 was students that had grades of D.
Yeah.
A single D got one on level 1 academic monitoring. A single grade of F got someone on level 2 academic monitoring.
Right,
So that's what it's trying to capture.
But it says below 65 to 69, it isn't 65 to 69 D?
Yes.
So
The word below is...
the word below is in there, and I think it's a mistake. In the detailed one, it says below for level 1, which would be a failing grade. It doesn't have...
Oh, you're in the plain language, I'm sorry. You're in the plain language?
No, I'm in the detailed language.
Oh, okay.
On page 4.
Page 4.
Level 1.
Level 1 is correct, at least as I read it. Right? No, I'm saying level 1 is correct as I read it. Level 2 is the one you have a question.
Why is it below a range, Sean?
Because
Why does it say below a range?
Where do you mean?
It says below 65 to 69, that's a range. Why isn't it below a single number? Or why isn't it a range?
It's not like my
Which
page.
do you mean?
What it was trying to capture, well, it is a typo, yes, right? What it was trying to capture is of a D or lower, is what it was trying to capture. So it's trying to catch everyone that had a D, and not just an F.
Right, so that's
So
why...
it should say 69 or below is what it should say.
Well, but 1F is below 65, and that's captured by level 2.
Yes. But it's not the D. We're trying to
It's not
capture...
the, right, so we just need to take out the word below on level 1.
No,
I
we
think
take
it's
off
more-
65.
Right, Sean's got
Should
it.
say below 69.
That's
Greater
clear,
below
that's
69.
clear.
But if it's,
But if it's a 50, why isn't it a level 2?
yeah, if it's below 65, won't it automatically go to level 2? Because that's what that says.
Thus, again, the difficulty was trying to do the student numerical grading. So
But the level 2 says...
I'm agreeing with you, it's a problem, yes, I agree.
Well, no, but any student with below a grade of 65 is at level 2, but any student with a grade of 65 to 69 is only at level 1.
Yes.
If you take out the word below in level 1.
Correct.
So strike the word below
Yeah, that's gotta go.
in level 1?
Yes.
Or are we striking 65?
No, there was a range meant to be on purpose to catch folks who didn't fail a class but were borderline failing a class. That was the intent.
Yeah.
Very good.
I agree.
And I'm not sure it says that. We'll have to check the actual policy as well, right? But I don't think it may not be that in the actual policy. This is the detailed procedures. It may not be the actual policy.
Well, that may not be that in policy.
The policy was, this was the one policy that that was changed before.
Okay, I may not have gotten the simple policy. I may have only gotten... I had a little problem with attachments, apparently.
You wouldn't have gotten this policy because this policy has already been approved by the board and it is not being modified. It's only being added to the detailed procedure.
Oh, okay. So we're on the detailed procedures. It needs to be changed or corrected in the detailed procedures.
And I will check to make sure that the policy reads correctly as well. If it needs to, we'll bring it back.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then what we in a detailed way, the change reflected from letter grades to numerical grades. We needed to change that. Then child abuse and maltreatment, pages 9 through 11. And let me just be clear, when we indicated the page numbers, it was just to indicate there might be slight discrepancy. We indicated with the track changes all being clear, with a clear copy, because trying to have two separate sets of numbers, it was too confusing. So these page numbers refer to the copy of the code of conduct with all the changes already made. Now, the track changes takes up much more space.
Okay.
I have a brief comment on 5460. It's the final paragraph still refers to the superintendent as her. It says the superintendent.
We changed that. I'm not sure what happened. I changed that, so it must have reverted back because we caught that in the policy committee. Yep.
Close enough.
Out of respect for Dr. Brown, I would like to see...
And so folks know, we are not going to write his or hers. We're just going to write the superintendent or designee.
Right. Oh, and that's what we had changed.
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you.
So it must have, when we hit this, it must have reverted back. Okay, so, sorry, I lost my train of thought. My track of thought.
And if Dr. Wentz, if I may,
sure.
As we go through this as well and folks continue to find things, if you find things in advance, you don't have to wait to the board meeting to do them. You can send them to the team so we can continue, or send them to me as well. We can make these changes. Some of these things are just grammatical typos that don't require, others require a conversation, discussion. Some are things like that that we should call it typos.
Just sort of in the way we're proceeding through. There was something I saw in a policy, but we've already discussed that section of the code of conduct. Did I miss my opportunity to comment?
No, we're going to go back and do the policies one by one.
Yeah, we're doing just... Exactly.
Okay. So child abuse and maltreatment, pages 9 through 11. We had modifications to striking that school officials are encouraged to notify parent caregivers around the neglect and we just replaced it with, or we left, that we'll just cooperate fully with Child Protective, and if they share with us, basically there's something we need to share, we can do that, okay? And then similarly for that policy, we changed that language to match what we had changed in the Code of Conduct. Dress code on pages 22 through 25. We have a new introduction listed at the beginning. The opt-out provision that you see was previously further in the document towards the end. We moved that up towards the front. And then just minor modifications under clothing and accessories. But we did add that students needed to wear protective gear in certain classes like phys ed, technology, and that elementary and or middle school students needed to have protective gear if they're on climbing structures. We talked about that. And then there was a new section that was added, you'll see, entitled footwear. So that's outlined what that new addition is. Gang attire was renamed, again, opt-out provision. And then implementation guidelines for restricted attire, so that was really spelled out very specifically, and then the administrative guidelines for enforcement of the dress code regulations. And then you'll see that since this is, dress code is a policy 5311.5, we needed to change the policy as well.
So before proceeding, I'm not sure if this is the time we're going to do this or go back, but I'm going to recommend that we strike the second paragraph of the new introduction of the student dress code policy, and I'm going to be recommending the same with the actual policy.
Say it again.
The second paragraph says student dress code policy for all students K through 12.
Yes.
There's all students, page 22.
Yes.
The paragraph right above the opt-out provision, dress and attire influence how students conduct themselves. I'll be recommending that we strike that paragraph from both the document and the policy, and I'll explain when we get to the policy why I'm recommending that.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we have to take care. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's going to be the conversation.
Okay. Okay. Then electronic devices, pages 26 through 27. As I mentioned in the plain language, that there's new language to include electronic devices if they can be demonstrated that they're being used in the instructional program. Let me spend a little bit of time on gun-free and weapon-free schools on pages 29 through 30. This was the one section of the Code of Conduct with corresponding policy that had actually an ad hoc committee of varied stakeholders. And as you remember, this time last year, a year ago, we had parents that spoke to all of you, those of you who were on the board, about their concern that we had a zero tolerance policy around gun-free and weapon-free schools. So this ad hoc committee met, I think about 3 or 4 times during the late fall and winter to discuss recommendations and modifications to both Code of Conduct and policy. And so what is modified here is what you see for the most part. One of the modifications that they wanted to make is that if there's any particular either possession, use, sale of particular weapons, they wanted to have principal discretion. That was the big piece. But there are weapons that are illegal in the state of New York, and so I didn't feel comfortable saying, well, we'll still give principal discretion if they're illegal. You know, that's an automatic superintendent's hearing. I'm not comfortable saying, well, we'll give a principal discretion around if the student brings a taser gun. It's legal in New York. You can be have legal ramifications. So I wanted to point that out. But then, sure.
So the superintendent's hearing is mandatory.
Yes.
The superintendent still retains discretion as to what consequence will be imposed at that point, right?
Always does.
So the mandatory, there are some districts in which zero tolerance means you have your gun, you're gone for a year, done.
That is still in there. If you have a gun, that's per New York State law. If you have a gun, that's an automatic year out of school. There's no
The difference may
wiggle room
be,
there.
say I go on a Boy Scout hiking trip and I forget I have a pocket knife in my backpack to go to school the next day. our old policy said there was an automatic, if I'm not correct, if I'm correct, it was an automatic suspension. Now we give the principal a little bit more discretion to understand the circumstances. Does that warrant an automatic suspension? Did the child mean to bring, not mean to bring the door from the school, but was it?
Can I ask a different, for instance, with the gun? And the answer. So, a situation I know about from a different district. I think I may have spoken to this at a, you know the one I'm about to say?
I do.
Okay, so, Kid was
Yeah,
okay.
right.
I think I said it at a board meeting once before. Kid's 15, younger brother is 10. Dad's been out on a bender all night, comes home, picks up the gun, says to the 10-year-old, I'm going to blow your brains out, and passes out on the couch. 15-year-old puts his 10-year-old brother back together, gets him ready for school, puts the gun in his backpack because he knows he needs to turn this gun in. Right? Gets his little brother off to school. He's in school. He is running to the principal's office to give the principal the gun. Gets stopped for running. They find the gun. He's gone for a year. Because the rule said if you are in possession of a gun, you're gone for a year. He was on his way to turn the gun in. Of course it was in his possession, but the school was trying to figure out how do we retain our ability to think in a situation like this and not let a zero tolerance policy do what's the obviously inhumane and wrong thing just because the word possession is there. So how would we respond to that circumstance here?
It's an automatic, you're out of, it's a superintendent's hearing and you're out for a year.
What?
The commissioner's regulations does say that.
What? Maybe we would need to ask, but I don't know why the superintendent's given any discretion there at all to hold a hearing. Why? Because the superintendent is the head of the local educational authority and therefore they're the only person who can do it.
It's a 1 year minimum suspension.
It's a shame.
But it says it's subject to review on a case-by-case basis by the superintendent.
And could the superintendent then speak with the commissioner if there was some extenuating circumstances like that? Yes, it would come to the superintendent, but then could I appeal to the commissioner for some leniency?
You can always.
Yeah, so because I think, yes, they're providing guidelines and policy, but I'm hopeful, just like some other ways that we received, that there's an opportunity for us to have a conversation.
That's what I'm hopeful, that we can retain.
But I don't think any of us would be happy with that as an outcome. If that was the case,
we had discussed at the session in which this came up, we had discussed the concept of an amnesty policy to run parallel to this. Is the discretion a substitute for that piece of it?
Yes. Thanks. Where did that conversation happen?
Right here at this table.
Of an amnesty?
Yeah.
Thanks for providing additional information. I appreciate that.
No, we actually had the conversation. It was actually a pretty strident conversation.
I'll look for it in a minute.
People seem to be, I was articulating, I have no problem with zero tolerance, and I also have no problem with absolute amnesty. That's a balance I can easily strike in Josh's case. That means the child would not be in trouble for running down the hallway to the superintendent's office or principal's office to actually hand the gun over. Right? We were expressing the opportunity to encourage students to turn in whatever they have bought immediately upon realizing that they have it in their possession. And amnesty is being implemented in certain circumstances now, in particular higher education, around alcohol consumption for the same purpose. Right? We want the young people to understand that if they turn this over, if they talk to us about what's happening, we will not hold that discussion against them. And I'm wondering, it doesn't seem like that aspect of it specifically made it in these policies, but that's why I asked.
That's kind of
that's what we mean by discretion, and it's explicit. And I can live with this. No,
Well, we have two separate things going on. We have the gun piece, which is, or firearm, which is in a category by itself. we have not provided amnesty in that it is an automatic superintendent's hearing, and you, per the commissioner, you are a student is supposed to be out for a year. Dr. Brown is asked, well, could I have a conversation and see if there's some wiggle room there, or if there are extenuating circumstances, and you can do that. The other piece is if there's any other weapon, a pocket knife, if there any other weapon. And what the policy now says is that it's not an automatic superintendent's hearing, and that the principal, based on the conversation that they have with the student or the family or any other adult or a peer, it's not an automatic superintendent's hearing, and it might be a conversation. There's a variety of responses that can be. So to me, I see that as being close to what you're saying around amnesty.
Two quick things. One, in that situation, in the policy, one conversation we had was that it's not just the principal, but in conversation with central administration as well. So the principal is not acting outside of accordance without having some conversation with someone in central office.
Correct.
But I don't think what you said matches what I heard Elder and Josh say, so what I'm interested in wondering if we can have a green check to see if other districts have amnesty policies, or if NISBA has anything. I'd be curious to see what's out there in terms of language that other school districts are doing. I wonder about even the legality of an amnesty project, of an amnesty policy or procedure.
I should say the district to which I was referring, I know, is in a different state. So, insofar as this is state law,
but it'd be interesting.
That state may have had the option where ours doesn't. I don't know. But.
So it'd be interesting seeing what's even legally possible and what other school districts are doing. And then I think it'd be interesting for next year's manual. It may not make it this year's about. There may be a way in which we think about having an amnesty clause in this policy about what that may look like. So to be very explicit about what that may look like for students. If we're trying to encourage getting weapons out of the hands of young folks and into adults, then we may want to make that explicit and provide them with an outlet to make that happen.
Just going to do a quick say back. So, because I don't think I was clear with what you were saying. So there will be no, what you're saying, Mr. Harris, is there'll be no repercussions if the students are coming in and saying, and Josh, I have this, but I'm turning it in. There's whatever the circumstances is, and there should be no repercussion.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, with the pull involving young people, it seems to me that if you let them know that there will more than likely be no consequences if they actually voluntarily submit the weapon. It would be as illogical to say there will be no consequences.
Okay.
Right? The kid could have just actually done something with the pocket knife. If it brings it to you and it's dripping, of course there are going to be consequences. But as a way to actually encourage young people to turn over anything they have, it seems to me that saying our policy is amnesty, as long as you haven't used it in the commission of the crime, we're going to cut you some slack.
I don't think New York will save schools, but
what I'm saying, I can imagine that 15-year-old should have done something different, right? That 15-year-old should have called the police before ever getting to school, right? I get that. That there are other more advisable ways for the child to act with a gun. I understand. And that school, in teaching the kid how to deal with that circumstance, may want to do so. But it seems to be putting the kid out of school for a full year to teach him that lesson. It's not wise use of our authority as teachers of children. And so
we have discretion.
That's the piece I'm looking at.
Let's find out about discretion.
We're going to find out if we have the discretion for a firearm.
So this is going to be fleshed out, and this is not the final, but whether we're looking at amnesty, et cetera, that's in the future, and we'll figure that out. And continue, Leslie, please.
And I appreciate everyone hanging in there with me. We're getting along. Harassment, which shows up on pages 30 through 35. Just again, as I mentioned in the plain language, it's modifications to the code of conduct and to board policy to reflect the new language for proper terms for protected characteristics. Medications, page 36. There was the addition of language that states that bus drivers/aides cannot transport a child's medication to school. And since so that needs to be changed in the Code of Conduct and policy as well. School bus conduct, pages 39 through 41. Spend just a little more time on this section. Mr. Ellis, our transportation supervisor, was on our committee, and he said he was really concerned after reading through our Code of Conduct that the school bus conduct really didn't feel like it fit. That you read along with the Code of Conduct, and it felt like there was some restorative pieces, and then his section felt pretty punitive and very directive as far as what you can't do this, you can't do that. So he spent time, and what was really nice about this, he had conversations with his driver, so there was input back in the office with them, interacting and speaking about what would make it, what works, what are you seeing on the buses. So the language that's all there is much more restorative, much more positive, proactive, and once this section is approved, in whatever iteration we finally land on, he's going to have these all printed. He's going to have a conversation with again with them prior to school, and they'll be posted in all of the school buses for students, and there'll be a review with all of our students who ride buses. Yes.
I would just say one of the things I really like about this, and it might be a revision for future plain language documents. It's written in the second person. I like that a lot. It's talking directly to the student. Please do this. Keep your hands to yourself. The whole thing could be rewritten that way in a really nice way.
Okay. We're almost there.
I have another question. You about to move past that one?
Sure. If not, well, no. Until you
We were, but no. Go ahead.
When you talk about making it more restorative,
yes.
Does that mean involving? Help me understand what that means. Do we treat what happens on the school bus along a continuum the same way we treat things that happen in the school?
And that was his main piece around the fact that there's no alignment right now, very little alignment between what happens on the school bus and what happens in the classroom. And this was an attempt to really make that integration and to have more cooperation between schools and the drivers. So that was exactly his
Not
intent.
just separate good language, but actually connect to the events and the child.
Okay. Student activity section, pages 44 through 46. Carl Melander over at Ithaca High School was really helpful, instrumental in the recommendations here. There's new language relative to communication on school websites, so we need, again, with the fact that we have technology more at the forefront now, to include that section. New language, this isn't a new timeline, but just making sure that it was included in the Code of Conduct for invited guests to the prom or other major dances, so it's just pulling that language in. And then new language relative to the timeline for trips, so for submitting that information, getting that in a timely fashion, and making sure there's more than enough time to review it in case there needs to be modifications. And then the last piece in the Code of Conduct, and Judy Hoffman's here with me, should there be questions on page 50, modifications to the board policy 5312.3, and then taking some time to look through, there's just much stronger language relative to tobacco use, so much more directive around the fact that it's not supported, and that we're taking a stronger stand that we don't want tobacco use possession in the schools. So that's indicated there.
I did point out to Dr. Brown when we were in the cafeteria one day that back in the day when I was at Ithaca High School, we had a student smoking section. Right outside the cafeteria.
A little red.
Oh no, it was well used, but it was sign of the times. But there was a student smoking section outside the cafeteria. That used to be a little courtyard there before they added on, and that's where it was, man.
I quickly pointed out to you that I was before I was born.
And we kind of went back and forth for a while on those subjects. And so it's Dr. Brown times have changed. And now we have a zero tolerance policy regarding tobacco products, and not only at the high school but throughout the district. And chocolate.
You have a quick, I'm going to try to run us through these policies. You have a quick
Question, that you said products, that includes all the stuff, right? The stuff.
There's a list. It's listed. There's a list of products listed in your policy. It's pretty exhaustive.
I don't think I made it that far.
Talking snuff, etc. Right?
Yes. We can come to it. So was that the presentation, Mark?
That is.
So maybe at this point in time it would be helpful. There's a list of policies. If we can go through each policy, I understand that will now be postponed and not tabled per se, but it's all first reading. We'll come back to it for the 28th. So if people have, we'll do them in order. They're listed. If you have questions, comments, we can go through them. You've heard them in context and try to proceed that way. Does that make the most sense for folks?
Exactly.
So policy 5020 is equal education opportunity harassment of students. Hopefully you got it within your packet. Do you have any?
There's one.
I just have one word question. Maybe this is just legal language. It says weight as a protected.
Yeah.
It's weight and not body type.
That's the legal
That's the one. It's weight. So if I get
well, there you go.
Short, tough.
Hey.
I'm just saying.
Just want to point out that.
No, this is what I said, right? It is. It's weight. Or tall.
So in this,
talking about
in this policy, the board recognized bullying in at least 3 different forms: that physical bullying, verbal and written bullying, and relational bullying. I'm wondering, with all the talk, all the research, if we don't list cyberbullying, we're not in that game. It doesn't work its way into the classroom. At least when I was teaching, it was working its way into the classroom pretty regularly.
That should be added.
So we should probably add that as one.
Oh, definitely.
So at least 4 different types. Beyond that, it read clean to me. I don't know if other people have other comments, questions about policy 20.
And again, this is the first reading. There's going to be time to provide comments as we delve into these over the next week or so. We do, Sean, we want to adopt these.
They'll be back on the agenda for the 28th for a second reading and hopefully final adoption.
Right. So you're going to have, 10 days here, but now's the time, and hopefully we'll have the final versions of all the policies on the 28th. They can be adopted, and we'll have the student code of conduct in its entirety at that time.
Absolutely, and we'll also ensure that with the next agenda that goes up for the 28th, any policies that are having a second policy go out with the agenda in PDF form, so the public, everyone's going to have a copy of those as well. If you have any additional edits, changes, grammatical catches, please either email myself or Dr. Myers to make the possible corrections.
And Sean, as we go through these, we're going to move and table each one.
We're just going to postpone each one.
Postpone each one
to the 28th. No tabling.
No tabling, right? Very good.
From a quick study.
Just like to be clear. All right, keep going, Sean.
So that's postponed.
I'm doing this group. Just do the whole group.
Fantastic. 5311.5 student dress code is the next policy. I mentioned previously as we're going through the detailed procedures, I'm recommending that we pull the first paragraph. The first paragraph, it's not that it doesn't read well to me, I'm not sure that's the game that I want to be playing as a school district, talking about the grooming of students and the promotion of particular dress habits that promote etiquette, decorum, and good citizenship, decency, and cleanliness. I understand that, but it seems very paternalistic to me in ways that are offensive. And so I'd be much more inclined to pull that and just keep, and it actually says nothing about what the actual dress code is. It just gives a little bit of rationale about what the dress code is for. The actual dress code is located in the last 3 paragraphs below the opt-out provision. So my recommendation would be to delete that paragraph. But questions, comments, concerns about the policy as written.
So that'll be, that discussion will be postponed as well. That's a proposed, yeah, he's putting it to. Or no, I'm asking.
Discuss it now.
I'm putting out, I guess I'd put it out there now, so when we bring it back for our second reading, you'd have a different version than sitting in front of you.
It's a question of whether that we're going to go along with the deletion of that paragraph. And now it's not a bad, ask away. This is a good time to speak to it.
And if folks need time to read it and think about it more in depth, then we can definitely have a further conversation at 28.
Is that?
I am for keeping the paragraph. I do think how you dress influences how other people see you. And I think that shouldn't be, but it does. And I think it influences how you act also. And I know it sounds old-fashioned, like grooming is a very old-fashioned word. Maybe we can work on making it more modern. But having been a teacher, I'm very concerned that after gym class, I can stand next to you. So I think that's very important, and others can sit next to you. So somehow that's got to be in here.
Maybe I should make my quick objection clear. I think the second to last paragraph, the board prohibits attire bearing expression or insignia which is obscene, lewd, vulgar, or libelous, or which advocates violence or prejudice on the basis of protected classification is defined by District Policy 5020. There's also other language that gives the principal discretion, and there's educational law which says if it's a disruption to the educational day, that principals have the authority, the discretion to recommend a change or ask a student to leave the day if they can't find their clothes. So I'm saying this is I'm in full, complete support of a dress code. But I'm not supportive of the district saying that we're going to teach you how to groom yourself and be cleanliness, because I think those are culturally defined and culturally specific and run the potential of being offensive depending on when they're imposed upon people. And I don't know that we've done enough capacity building at this point in time to have all of our building leaders and all of our personnel to be able to make those determinations. It just seems a little too stifling to me, but that's one person, that's why there's a board of 9, right? So,
well, you know, in elementary school we used to, I can't speak now, but if a child came to school in clothes that smelled, and we do have bathrooms with showers, and we did have extra underwear and clothes, we did that. To be ostracized by your classmates is, for those reasons, very demoralizing.
And I have a couple of things. Who went back to, do you think that language helps us get to that where you're talking about? This language in this policy makes that happen, or is this going to happen regardless?
I would like it to happen regardless, but I'm not sure that it does.
Absolutely.
So I guess when I read this the first time, I thought of a different scenario. So if examples are helpful, I thought of a Muslim child who wears a burqa to school, and that this language actually says the word value, right? When you're talking about value propositions in clothing, the last sentence says good citizenship. Those have the potential to be taken in a different direction. Right? So I don't want to throw out your baby, Junior, that you just mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
Clothing.
I can strike that out of there.
It's just the history of this country seems to be littered with opportunities for people to abuse language like that.
Yeah,
But I don't want to throw out
and I
just
can take down standards of decency, too.
To Sean's point, the paragraph is out of 1957.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which I appreciate.
So then hearing that, if it's okay with the board, then I'll work with Dr. Marks to do some wordsmithing. We'll keep the general part of the paragraph in, but take some of the language out, the value propositions.
Yeah, the
We'll come back
value.
to other folks,
Take the
and
value.
then we'll bring it back to the full board for a second reading.
Oh, I was going to agree with your point that it's a very outdated and very not culturally sensitive wording in the second paragraph, but the fourth paragraph that says the purpose of this dress code also kind of addresses the behavioral goals, and maybe you could take out that paragraph and add a little something to the purpose of the dress code. Safe, orderly, committed to the delivery of educational services without distraction or disruptions. When you get down into the specifics, there's really nothing that addresses cleanliness or hygiene, so it is kind of anomalous in that second paragraph.
By way of suggestion, this part of the problem with this is that it starts to define value as a student deficit. Right, that there's a problem with the student. And what this doesn't, when we continue to talk about classrooms that are inclusive and developing the competence of our teachers to have classrooms that are inclusive, I would hope that a district policy on dress is not necessarily a student dress code, frankly, but it's a policy on how we as educators deal with dress. And a significant part of how we deal with dress is having the competence to talk with our children about ways of dressing and different ways of dressing. And this whole thing frames the whole thing as a student problem, which is somewhat antithetical to the way we're running the rest of our district, the way we're doing RTI and the way we do everything else. So it's
That's coach for the board. Two quick responses to that point. One, I'll check with NISBA. I'm not so certain that the policy number isn't identified as student dress code, right? So I want to check that. And also, I will mention that in the work that Dr. Myers did with a couple of committees, they recognize in the manual that a lot of the attire issues are not student isolated, and that we have professionals who oftentimes do not dress appropriately as well, and trying to find some language to make this a district-wide thing as opposed to just
not only is it how adults come to work dressed, but it's how we as adults lead the conversation about what we look like and how we right.
Yeah.
So Judy's describing from her point of view a very compassionate way of leading a classroom through that. This policy isn't about that.
No.
Right. This policy is about student student hygiene, student dress as deficit of the student, and that's...
It's a value judgment. I don't want it as a value judgment.
That's what I'm saying, and we want a policy that reflects our better nature, not ours.
So those folks who have suggestions, recommendations of language, please by all means send it our way. We'll take some tinkering with it, and we'll have a different draft ready for the next second reading at the 28th.
We're not going to talk about uniforms right now.
Not yet.
No.
Plaid, please plaid.
I just wanted to add that that's what makes this process so rich, because this section was a recommendation from one of our stakeholder groups. So, they always know that it's subject to final approval from the board, but remember, we had a 360-degree casting of the net of soliciting feedback. So we do our best to try and make the language flow and make it sound like it's all one vision, one voice, but again, just being mindful of the fact that we're soliciting feedback from lots of different folks.
Okay. Which is good. Fantastic. Policy 5312 is the gun-free and weapons policy. We've had a little bit of conversation about it during Dr. Myers' presentation. Folks who see the policy, quick questions, comments, additions, critiques.
Just a reminder, we were going to look.
There's going to be more work done.
If there was amnesty.
My expectation is that would probably not make this go round, but we'll do some intensive work for next go round. I think it's going to be. I mean, if there's something simple and easy, by all means, just make it happen. But I think that's a bigger conversation.
Okay.
And Judy.
It says here the sale or use of other weapons, including illegal knives.
Where are you, Judy? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm on
paragraph or section.
Yeah, I'm on the first paragraph under other weapons.
Okay.
I just think knives. Except I do have this poor little kindergartner I can remember coming to school with a butter knife. And it was...
Did you nail him, Judy?
I got it right there at the door. But I don't think you need the word illegal.
We do, because
there are legal.
Because this is the automatic superintendent's recommendation to the superintendent hearing. If we just put knives, then we're back to where we were before.
Okay.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
My Boy Scout handbook,
Yeah.
jackknife, is I can buy that, you know, at the Boy Scout surplus. It's legal.
Right.
But when you bring it to school.
Switchblades, I'm like,
That's the problem.
Now, how big is the blade? How soon to be released?
It's
3 inches, different massages.
okay.
Moving on.
Fantastic, we're good. Policy 5312.3, student tobacco possession. I know that Judy Hoffman worked with a committee of folks on this policy. The old policy, what was the last date on that? Oh, I thought it was significantly older than this, right?
Well, the 2009, there was slight modifications. The 97 really is.
So the policy is, in essence, it's been strengthened. There's a number of definitions of tobacco use. We did have some questions about the procedures. In other words, the enforcement. What happens if a first offense, second offense, or third offense that it's not specified in the actual policy? We're told that these are all specified in the detailed procedures of each individual building. Right? The handbooks of each building have detailed procedures about smoking infractions or tobacco use infractions based on this policy. So beyond that, in Eldred, if you see it here, it does tell you there's a list of the definitions of tobacco means a whole litany of things. Tobacco, pipes, clove cigarettes, chew, snuff, etc., dip, you name it, etc.
You mentioned it, Dr. Everson Bradwell, but I was remiss. I said that the gun and weapon-free was the only one that had a committee. This one had an extensive committee as well, so I apologize for that.
We're not bringing back the smoking area apparently. So on to the next one.
Well, hold on real quick. The rationale for this policy I had some issue with. The last bullet point, it says research conclusively proves that, and it lists a number of bullet points. But the last one is that tobacco could be a gateway drug leading to exposure in situations involving other unhealthy behavior and problems. We have conclusive evidence that states that tobacco is a gateway drug. We've identified that. The other ones all make sense to me, but that one seems a little tenuous. This is on policy 5312.3, the last bullet under the rationale.
Oh, sorry.
A nurse.
You want me to? So these rationales came from a template from the committee, of which we had collaboration with Jennifer Hellman, who was the director of the Tobacco-Free Healthy Schools grant, and she got this information specifically from that grant and from that research. So I can ask her to clarify where that research came from or where that statement came from, out of what research, if you'd like.
I would like that, yes.
Okay.
If we're going to list it as a rationale.
It's piling on, it seems like.
There's a whole bunch of reasons not to use tobacco above and beyond its scare tactic of being a gateway drug for young folks. But we should list caffeine there too and some other things.
Hey, it teaches you how to inhale.
The Diet Pepsi stuff?
Other things, can we move on? We're almost done here. Y'all doing great? 5320R, the student conduct on buses. That's a procedure. It's not necessarily a policy. And those are the things that our new bus director is going to print up and post various places. I had a couple quick things. But other folks, comments, questions about anything on 5320R? I'm interested where it says respect for other students, that we tell people to be there at least 5 minutes because it's unfair to make other students late for the bus. I thought that was, do we think that's really going to grab? If the points to put these up there to young folks, is that going to grab people? You need to be on time, otherwise it's unfair to make others late. So maybe it's
You don't want to point that out?
I would prefer to say something like, look, the bus ain't going to wait for you.
So take the negative side, okay.
Yeah, right.
All right.
So if you're running down the street, the bus is going to go on.
It already says that it's dangerous to arrive late to the bus. Maybe it's just me. And then the last one, it says, respect school property. You and your parents are responsible for the damage to the bus. I just read funny to me. I don't know what we meant that the students and the principal would be responsible for damages that they incur. That's the idea.
Mm-hmm. You all right, Wendy? Yeah. Okay.
I'm good with that one. Anything else for that one for anybody else?
No.
Postponed. 5423, medication policy is only a slight modification. we had to add some language to that. Is that correct, Judy?
Well, I think that came out of the request of the bus drivers. Right. We had put it on previously because there were situations where arrangements were made where bus drivers were transporting medication, but it sounds like that is actually a concern, and I get that, and so that's being asked to be removed.
And how often was that happening? Frequently?
Not frequently, rarely, but there were times. But we can work at making other arrangements to get medications to school, and I can understand not asking the bus drivers to take responsibility for medication.
The concern was pills being lost or...
Them being responsible.
Yeah.
Let me just throw out something, because it occurred to me. How about the circumstances where the children might need the actual
And we have
self-administrated EpiPens, insulin?
So, in terms of carrying medication on the bus into school, it's the same. Students have to have a self-carry order, but for students that ride the bus that need EpiPens or whatever, all the bus drivers are aware of those students. They have that information, but if they can't self-carry, that medication is not permitted on the bus. So again, we have other plans and other ways of supporting those students on the bus.
Oh, I was just asking for a point of clarification. So this is not handing medicine to bus drivers. This is putting your kid on the bus with medicine in their backpacks. That means the bus driver cannot transport medicine that's in your child's backpack?
No, if the child has a self-medication order, they most definitely can carry it on them in their person.
Okay.
But if they don't have a self-carry, so they aren't allowed to carry medications and self-administer the medication at school, then it can only be transported to school, and this is New York State law as well, by an adult, and it needs to be kept in the household.
Right.
That's why we're on the policy.
Right.
You should join the policy committee. I heard they're going to be opening soon.
The kid can't take their medication down the bus.
A quick grammatical thing between the second and third paragraphs. There's a missing carriage return, it looks like. Right. The school nurse is responsible for obtaining the signed order, period, and then it looks like we're another paragraph, parents and or guardians request.
Okay.
Bless you. Policy 54, we're good there? Policy 5460, suspected child abuse and maltreatment. We already went through the quick changes. Questions, comments, additions, fixes?
I think we're good.
And then policy, we're good? And then policy 5310, you heard Dr. Myers go through, and policy, and then the student conduct manual, which actually is a policy, which usually goes through some approval process anyway with the board. You heard the detailed procedures we've gone through with those as well. So if there's not any further questions, we'll postpone all of them for a second reading for the 28th.
Without objection.
That's brilliant.
There we go. And I will point out, we appreciate all the work the policy committee has done.
Don't pander, Rob, don't pander.
No. I was really segueing over to Leslie Myers, who, Leslie, every year you put a tremendous amount of work in student code of conduct. Great job. If I'm going to pander anybody, it's going to do it. Well, Leslie, you know, this is it's a lot of work, and your efforts to bring the community in to be a part of this is important, and it's certainly better than it used to be, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Rob, can I add to that? We had a couple of parents and stakeholders come to our last policy committee meeting who both expressed to Dr. Myers a sincere gratitude for not just the openness, but the way in which the process has gone through. So, as someone who's been trying to get a handle on the ICSD policy for a couple of years now, since my time on the board, I'm greatly appreciative of the way in which you did this and the organized fashion of having these documents ready for us. So, Dr. Myers, thank you. That was a phenomenal job. Well done.
Very good. That's where I was trying to go.
No,
policy committee. I mean, last week we're fine. So we're going to go on. So we're good on all those. We're fine. Reprise. Anyone? Corinne, you had your hand up a while ago.
Yes, thank you.
And then Susan.
Okay. Actually, I was the PTA parent rep on the gun-free, weapon-free school ad hoc committee. And this is now the second time I've seen this. I did say that I would send to Dr. Myers my understanding of a change that needs to be here, but I'm just going to do it here. If you'll just look at your policy 5312.2 under other weapons, There is still a problem with syntax that is not a minor issue. In the second paragraph, which essentially is a sentence, it says, possession and/or use of any instrument that can inflict serious harm on another person or that can place a person in reasonable fear of serious harm, including but not limited to, and then it just goes nowhere. It has to say, okay, I believe what it has to say, from my notes from that committee, is strictly prohibited and subject to severe discipline action. So in other words, it would be, or that can place a person in reasonable fear of serious harm, is subject to, is strictly prohibited and subject to severe disciplinary action, including but not limited to, and then it lists all those things. From there, it goes to, the district may utilize temporary short-term disciplinary measures, such as suspension of 5 days or less, and the school principal has the discretion to use short-term measures based on the 6 ideas there. What I remember about the committee's idea was, it's not that we're trying to take away school safety. In other words, these are actually very serious weapons here. We're just trying to build in discretion, and so I feel that the fact that somehow, I don't know whether there was a breakdown between the person running the ad hoc committee to get that information here. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that that has to be fixed.
I think, Corinne, the sentence you were adding on is somehow it's reproduced in the full version of the text, but not on these individual handouts.
Well, this is actually the policy.
Okay.
This is, Corinne, I know you said you were going to email. It would be very helpful if you could email that language to me.
I'll be happy to do that.
And I'll try to make sure it's on.
And then the only other thing I just want to say is that I was at the most recent policy committee, and I'm glad I have these copies that I sat here with, but I had to ask to go get my own copy of them to be productive tonight.
Thanks, Corinne. Susan.
Good evening. Today, the Ithaca Teachers Association presented to its membership some tentative agreements. Due to various, in terms of our Constitution and bylaws, we needed a certain number of days to provide information to the membership, so the closure of the voting will actually happen on Thursday, and we'll report the results. I want the board to consider their role in making a decision regarding the proposed budget prior to the 28th. I know that's your next voting meeting, but that means that your vote and decision wouldn't come out, and then it would be July, which means that should it pass, there will be a long delay before we're able to do some of the remuneration that's necessary. And to facilitate, I mean, we are very hopeful that you will come to an agreement. You know the terms, you know the conditions, you know everything about it. I know you have to consider it and take it to a vote, but if you would consider voting on it in a special voting session or something on the 21st, that would give the district, time to address payment for those things that are due and other things before we get well into the next fiscal year. So I'm willing to discuss this. I bring it up now because I was at the meeting today and realized that we pushed the timeline in order to accommodate yours, and I know you have a busy schedule, but if you would please take that under advisement, we'd appreciate it. I want you to know I came here tonight in fairly good humor and I leave somewhat distressed. I don't mean to be the bearer of sad news or frustration, but I came tonight to find out for the first time, and well, actually it's the second time. The first time I was informed was after the assembly this afternoon honoring retirees about the PLC leadership, etc. I had no idea. I'm so glad you're looking forward to a nice conversation with the union. I think we should have been included in the conversation before a decision was made about changing how you're going to do it and where the FTEs are going to come. If we're going to remove teacher department chairs or department leader release time to do PLC work, which is fine, then you have to think about what instruction we could have otherwise. And what about the duties that these individuals are given, the responsibilities that they have as department leaders? Who's going to cover that if you have 24 teachers in your department and one release period? How does that get done?
if in fact we're going to look at issues such as whether or not these are administratively certified. If you're asking these people to do work such as observation and evaluation, it's an administrator's job, and you shouldn't be talking to the teachers union. You need to be talking to the directors and administrators. So I know this is a first stage, but it's amazing to find out about it with the public and the world so that we are caught unawares and unable to say whether or not this is a positive thing, which is an example of my real frustration of communication. We're working really hard at communicating. It seems to be a one-way street. We find out about things, we being the teachers of the union and the union leadership, we find out about it after the world knows about it. I find out more from parental blogs than I do from the own communication within the district. I was deeply saddened at the lack of turnout at an incredible assembly today by retirees and tenured teachers. Some of these teachers who got tenure who are so proud either had little or no notice. I know it was sent out by email, but something's wrong when the majority of people are not there to receive recognition for something they've worked for so hard and I know care so deeply about. And I was thrilled to death to find out that the superintendent and others went to the time to get them a rose or to give them the recognition that they so well deserve and not have them there. What a waste of time on his behalf and all the staff here who did an incredible job and not have those people present. If it was one or two, I'd understand. It was the majority of the retirees and the majority of the tenured teachers. It was a sad statement on behalf of the people that I'm with, and I will call each and every one of them to find out why. But 4 people told me they didn't know about it. At our general meeting today, I announced the assembly, and less than 10% of those people in attendance even knew about this incredible thing. So something's wrong with our communication. Trust, it's down the tube. It needs to be earned. There is no trust. All these involuntary transfers and changes are coming from the top. There is no real discussion. People aren't knowing. There are major, major decisions being made, and there is not the input from the ground level about what's good and what's not. There are some very valid reasons to make changes, but when do we put the kids first? You have support services, psychologists and social workers, and major changes with years and years of relationships that have developed. That conversation has to happen. When I hear from social workers that 6 years after they have students, those students are still coming back, you know that there's an investment in relationship. Families that have been with people for a long time. So let's look at what the problem is and address the problem. Let's not play helter-skelter, moving everybody about without a plan that's known. And if there is a plan, then we need to share it. We have expectations, then people being affected by it need to know. We still have staff that have no idea where they're going or what's happening. You would say, well, we still have time. I would tell you it's the last 2 weeks of school. We've got a concern that we don't know which sections and where our staff will be. Contract? I mean, give me a break. We're really working hard to get this done so we can move on, and there's little being said. Respect, collaboration. I really am frustrated. My membership is frustrated. I'm working very hard on a settlement that we think is the best possible thing we could do. We've made concessions. We're working with you. We're trying. And the majority of my membership is telling me that the contacts made to them personally by individuals on the board and from this central office are going around the union. The union is strong. We work well together. Please give it a new try. Let's get better started on a new foot for the next year. Thank you.
Hey, I got to respond to this, Rob. Can I?
That's right.
This is exactly what needs to change. This thing we just witnessed tonight, and I'm actually glad it's on tape, because this, you can watch it and see what's wrong and how unhelpful this type of communication is.
Have you communicated with me?
This
Have
needs
you called?
to change.
Have you tried? No.
This needs to change.
If
we want to move the district forward,
yes,
this is the example of what needs to change. The superintendent and the Board of Education scheduled our second commendation ceremony. We showed up to show our appreciation to the retired teachers and the teachers who received tenure. We thought it was a great idea. We attended, we bought flowers and gifts to show our appreciation. Some people attended, some didn't. I don't know why they did or did not. At this point, I don't believe you know why they did or did not. But to just stand up here in a public forum without the knowledge and then blame us for having poor communication, which you don't know what happened yet. If you want to foster this better relationship as the union leader, this is not helpful. I hope we can move forward in a better way.
Do you know when I was notified, Seth?
But this...
I was notified when I booked the auditorium.
This example right now...
Yes?
...is not helpful. I'll leave it at that. If you want to talk privately about this, I'm more than open to doing that.
You're always welcome in my office.
Thanks.
It was Sean first, and then Elder.
A quick response to the issue that Corinne raised, which is an issue that we have been aware of, not just in the policy committee, as the board. I'm hoping a couple things, this is for the greater public, will help us in the future. One, the board has been exploring the possibility of having a board hosting websites, be it board docs. There's a bunch of services that are out there that offer hosting for these kind of documents, where there'd be a single place to go to so people can get a calendar of all meetings, agendas, minutes from subcommittees, and minutes from meetings, as well as each policy that would be listed. We keep exploring that. That would be one of the things that will help us for those folks who have electronic access. We realize it doesn't reach everybody, but that's one of the key things. Second to that is, as soon as the board is able to fill the clerk position, we figure out that some of these issues will also go away as well, that we're overwhelming our staff as it currently is, and so we're trying to play catch up, and the minute the clerk is there, then we'll have our policies and our agendas and all in order. So for those folks who've been waiting for things like agendas and minutes and policies, know that we're also aware of that, and we're expecting it to be taken care of as soon as possible. Thank you for the concern.
I just wanted to connect the dots, what Sean just alluded to and what Susan seems to be frustrated by. I alluded to something similar early. I understand the frustration. And I said it, the very group who worked on a policy that Bob alluded to doesn't know the work's getting done. The communication issue that you're speaking about, Susan, is a very broad one.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't make this a bad district, right? In fact, we have made several attempts to try to plug the hole by increasing the capacity of the administrative staff. And when we do that, then we run into pushback from your union, right? Saying specifically that if we're going to lose a teacher, or if we're going to make a decision to increase the capacity of the administrative staff, something's got to give. So we are in this communication boat in particular I'm speaking about. This is certainly a boat we're in together. You know, every time we try to move in the direction to increase the capacity, there is, from your perspective, perhaps a necessary pushback to say at what cost. So if there is a solution for how we can do this and run such a thin administrative group, I'd like to hear. I know the capacity of our administrators, and we know specifically where they're stretched and how. How do we increase this communication unless we increase the capacity? And that's a rhetorical question. I'm not going to ask you to answer it, but your frustration that you demonstrated is shared. But neither one of us seem to have a solution, given how hard we're working these executives now.
And we have an exec session to move into, so anything else at this point? Brad, can you?
I'll second. Yeah, I'll move that we go to executive session to discuss negotiations, discussion of employment history of particular persons, and litigation.
Thank you all. We will reconvene shortly.
Of course, what are you doing?